750 AD. A palace on the banks of the Tigris. Abu al-Abbas sat upon the throne. After the Battle of the Zab, the Umayyad Caliphate had fallen. A dynasty that had endured for 90 years drew its final breath this day. A new age was about to begin. The Umayyads had made Damascus their capital, favoring the Arab people above all others. But the Islamic world was not Arab alone. Persians, Egyptians, the peoples of Central Asia. For years, they had simmered with resentment at their treatment. The Abbasid Revolution unleashed that resentment like a dam finally breaking. And the center of power shifted from the Arabian Peninsula to Iraq and Mesopotamia, sustained by agricultural wealth, bureaucratic order, and the great arteries of trade. 762 AD. Al-Mansur, the second caliph of the Abbasid dynasty. He stood on the banks of the Tigris and gazed across the horizon. Here, he declared, "I will build the center of the world." Construction began in 762, and over the course of several years, the circular city, known as the Round City, took shape. At its heart rose the Caliph's palace and mosque. Baghdad grew at breathtaking speed. From east and west, merchants came. Scholars came. Artisans came. Its population is estimated to have reached hundreds of thousands, perhaps 1 million souls, making it almost certainly among the largest cities in the world. The cities of Western Europe at the same time were small by comparison. Baghdad stood in a class of its own. Baghdad was, without question, the center of the world. 786 AD. Harun al-Rashid, 20 years old. He ascended the throne as the 5th Caliph of the Abbasid dynasty. His reign would be remembered by history as a golden age. What was he thinking in that moment? The young caliph must have felt the sheer vastness of the world he now governed. From the Atlantic to Central Asia, from North Africa to South Asia, the Islamic world basked in a prosperity without equal. To Harun's court came the most gifted minds from every corner of the earth. Poets, philosophers, mathematicians, physicians. And they were not Muslims alone. Christian scholars, Jewish intellectuals. Across the boundaries of faith, they gathered under the caliph's patronage, and ideas and knowledge competed and flourished. The riches of this age would be told and retold for generations to come. The 1001 Nights, a work with layered origins and a long history of compilation, bears the name of Harun al-Rashid within its pages. It was a mirror of the image that later generations held of Baghdad's court in its glory. This was the greatest reason Baghdad stood as the center of the world, the House of Wisdom. Known as the great hub of translation and scholarship, this institution, with roots stretching back further, was dramatically expanded and formalized under the reign of al-Ma'mun. It was a library, a translation bureau, a research institute. Greek, Syriac, Persian, Sanskrit. The knowledge of the world was gathered here and rendered into Arabic. The philosophy of Aristotle, the geometry of Euclid, the mathematics of India. This translation movement was not the achievement of Muslims alone. Christian scholars, fluent in Greek and Syriac, stood at the very forefront of the translation effort. Figures like Hunayn ibn Ishaq played a central role in rendering Greek medical texts into Arabic. The House of Wisdom was less a single building than the symbol of a state-sponsored translation project, led by the caliph himself on a civilizational scale. People of different faiths, different tongues, different cultures, gathered beneath a single purpose. That was the force that sustained Baghdad's intellectual miracle. Al-Khwarizmi, one of the greatest mathematicians to flourish in Baghdad. In the early 9th century, he wrote a book. Its title, in translation, The Compendious Book on Calculation by Completion and Balancing. This work laid the very foundations of algebra, al-Jabr. And his name, al-Khwarizmi, was transcribed into medieval Latin as algorithmi, giving birth to the word algorithm, a concept that today sits at the very core of computer programming. That word was born in 9th century Baghdad. The knowledge translated and accumulated in Baghdad radiated outward across the entire Islamic world. To the east, in Persia, Ibn Sina rose to prominence. Known in the West as Avicenna, he was born in Bukhara and spent his life as a polymath, serving the courts of Persia. His canon of medicine brought together the full breadth of contemporary medical knowledge, from the structure of the human body to the prescription of remedies. Translated into Latin from the 12th century onward, it was widely read as a foundational medical text in European universities from the late Middle Ages through the 17th century. The knowledge left behind by the Islamic Golden Age would go on to sustain the European Renaissance. Baghdad's flourishing was not only a matter of intellectual culture. This city was the crossroads of trade between East and West. It was the terminus of the Silk Road and the gateway to the trade of the Indian Ocean. Silk and porcelain from China, spices and cotton from India, ivory and gold from Africa, silver from Europe. Everything flowed into Baghdad, and from Baghdad out into the world. Baghdad in that age was the heart of the world economy, what New York or London would be to the modern world. Immense wealth accumulated here, and that wealth made possible the investment in knowledge and culture. But glory does not endure forever. As the 9th century wore on, the Abbasid Caliphate began to change, slowly, but without question. Caliphs withdrew ever deeper into the inner chambers of their palace. Turkish soldiers rose to prominence in the 9th century, wielding enormous influence over the politics of the court. The move of the capital to Samarra in 836 was not unrelated to these tensions within the palace walls. The empire had grown too vast. It had stretched beyond what any single caliph could hold. Independent dynasties arose across its lands, and the Abbasid reach grew smaller. Autumn 1257. A terrible report reached Baghdad. The armies of the Mongol Empire, led by the general Hulagu Khan, were marching west. Hulagu was a grandson of Genghis Khan, son of Tului. His forces had already swept through Central Asia, trampled Persia beneath their hooves, and now they were closing in on Baghdad. The 37th Caliph, al-Mustasim. His decision would seal the fate of an empire that had endured for 500 years. January 1258. Baghdad was completely encircled by the Mongol army. Al-Mustasim's hands trembled. Options warred within his mind. Surrender, and perhaps his life would be spared. But 500 years of the caliphate would end. Resist, and perhaps his name would be carved into history. But Baghdad might burn. He could not decide. He spent his time in negotiation, waiting for relief forces that never came. But no relief came. Mid-February 1258. Accounts differ on the exact date, but the walls of Baghdad were breached. What followed were days of plunder and destruction. The records of historians tell us that at least hundreds of thousands perished. The precise number remains a matter of debate among historians to this day. 500 years of accumulated greatness, gone. Baghdad was left in ruins. The House of Wisdom was no exception. Centuries of collected manuscripts were lost. Legend holds that rivers ran black with ink. So vast was the number of texts destroyed. Though this image likely contains symbolic exaggeration, and details vary across the sources, there is no question that the cultural loss was catastrophic. Yet this much the scholarship agrees on. The destruction was immense. And at the same time it is said that scholars like Nasr al-Din al-Tusi secretly carried away precious books, saving them from the flames. Knowledge did not vanish entirely. February 22, 1258. Al-Mustasim, the last caliph of the Abbasid dynasty, was executed. The dynasty that began in 750 closed the final page of its 508-year history. He closed his eyes. Records say his expression, in that moment, was calm. The dynasty was gone, but what Baghdad had given to the world, that did not disappear. The intellectual legacy that Baghdad had built began its journey westward. Through Islamic Spain and Sicily, Arabic texts were translated into Latin. The medicine of Ibn Sina, the mathematics of al-Khwarizmi, the philosophy of Aristotle carried with the commentaries of Islamic scholars. These reached the universities of Europe and ignited an intellectual revolution across the medieval world. The Renaissance did not appear from nothing. Inscribed in its very foundations was the Golden Age of Baghdad, 750 to 1258. 508 years. The Abbasid dynasty left its mark on the history of humanity. Algebra, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and the great endeavor to gather the knowledge of the world into one place, translate it, and pass it on to those who would come after. The Mongols could burn buildings, but knowledge cannot be entirely destroyed. The seeds that had already spread across the world were already taking root everywhere. What, then, can we learn from this story? The word algorithm that we use today traces its origins to 9th century Baghdad. So does algebra, al-Jabr. Much of the medicine and philosophy that sustained the Renaissance had its source in the knowledge translated and preserved in Baghdad. The empire fell, but the work of those who gathered knowledge across lines of faith and ethnicity and passed it on to the next generation, that did not fall with it. This was the most important truth the Abbasid Caliphate revealed. And now, a question for you. Every empire, in the end, falls. But knowledge and culture outlast buildings. If you had been Caliph al-Mustasim, in that moment, what would you have chosen? And from the spirit of Baghdad, which gathered and spread knowledge across the boundaries of faith and ethnicity, what can we today learn? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for witnessing this moment in history with me all the way to the end. The Abbasid Caliphate changed the world, not through force of arms, but through the power of knowledge. This channel is dedicated to unearthing turning points like this one, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the lessons humanity has left behind. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're ready for the next journey through history. Until next time.